Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kristin Schloss from Razorleaf, and I'll be your moderator today. We are excited to have you join us today for our first Tech Tuesday, What's New from Aras. Razorleaf will be presenting on a monthly basis to the Aras community to share new updates, features, and applications from Aras Innovator. I'm pleased to introduce you to our speakers today. First, Rodney Coffey, who is our practice manager for Aras. And second, Milan Obradovich, who is our pre-sales architect for Aras. But before I start the presentation, just a few housekeeping notes. Firstly, this webinar will be recorded, and we will be sharing this recording with all participants. Also, during this webinar, we value your opinions and encourage any questions and or comments. So to ask a question, just simply enter them into the panel at any time. We will have a Q&A session at the conclusion of this presentation. So now I will hand it over to you, Rodney.
Very good, thanks, Kristin. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining us this afternoon. I'm excited to get these Tech Tuesdays rolling. I see a lot of familiar faces in the attendee list, so I'm grateful for you guys all for taking an hour out of your day to spend with us. The intent for what we're going to do with these sessions, since this is our first one, is we're going to talk about the new Aras release cycle, the new things that they're going to be doing with releasing new technology to the Innovator platform, as well as what our partners are going to do, folks like 𝙎𝙀𝙍𝙍 and our CAD connector partners, as well as what we're going to do with Razorleaf product. So we're going to use these Tech Tuesdays, at least initially, to kind of keep up with the more consistent changing of the platform. And then, we'll take it over time and kind of see how it evolves with the other things that our Tech Tuesday user base wants to talk about and discover. Then, we can always shift a little bit. But the intent is that we'll do this, roughly every 6 weeks following the 5-week cadence we're going to talk about here in just a moment. So today, being our launch of this, we are going to basically talk about the new release schedule, the new cycle for Aras Innovator. We'll take a look at some of the new administration and back-end updates that are coming with Aras 14, and then Milan will actually demo some of the new things. So I'd say that while the new strategy behind 14 and future updates is pretty big news, the feature updates are smaller. So we'll get to take a look at those pretty easily in the time we have allocated for today. And then of course, we want to take as many questions, answer as many questions as we can here at the end. So we really want these, this is a formal webinar. We have, formal content we want to show, but we want to keep this interactive, make sure that you guys are getting all the information you need. So with that, we will dive right in, and we are going to take a look at the new release schedule and some of the new things coming. So for years, Aras has considered themselves SaaS-like, in the fact that you as subscribers, as Aras subscribers, you're getting your upgrade taken care of, as well as they've released what we think of as major releases and service packs. So a somewhat traditional software model. I think what's been a little bit different is those service packs kind of came and were implemented pretty randomly, not just by Aras themselves, but also by our customer base. I know even some folks on the call just hopped up from 11 this last year up to 12, and now here we are talking about 14. So I'm pretty excited about the new release structure. So this is much more like a true SaaS model. And what you're going to see is the service packs, and for the most part, the major releases, which were major, right? Major code combinations disappear. So now we'll be into a consistent release schedule with a consistent release and recertification of the applications and the platform itself. So I have some visual slides that go over this in a little bit more detail, but that is the main key here, that no longer are the major releases. Now we'll have these incremental releases, which will get technology out to the user base, as well as bugs and fixes taken care of for the user base in a much more efficient manner. So pretty excited about this. As I mentioned, the new release schedule that Aras has talked about is going to be every 5 weeks. We plan to run a session like this every 6 weeks, and we will we'll monitor that as we go. the platform components. So the Innovator, its app components will be released on the same schedule. So if you think of brand new applications, things like, when we say applications, we mean like parts bombs, change management, quality requirements, those main applications, as well as the fixes to those applications or to the platform, all that stuff will be released in line every 5 weeks. The versioning number will just take on, if you think of what the major releases are today, you think of 10, 11, 12, that will be the new release model. So no longer will you wait 2 years to get 14. We will be 14, 15, 16, 17, so on and so forth every 5 weeks. So that, I think, just that nomenclature, just following that model, will also help us communicate with our clients as well as the vendor much more easily. So one thing to note, and again, we'll talk about this on the visual slides, is, and I think this is one of the biggest things for our customers to consider, is that after 14, so when we make the jump from 12 to 14, that will be the traditional upgrade. You'll log a support ticket. We're going to work with Aras to then get the database upgraded. After that, these 5-week releases will be able to be deployed by the customers. So this is great. This allows you to more incrementally take advantage of new applications, new features, and kind of do it on your timeline. There's some questions we'll answer about that later. I know some of you will, that there's a plan that has to be developed for you to properly implement that. We can talk about that a little bit later as well. And then what about 12, right? So where we're at on 12 today, that will be the last update of 12. So when we look at the visual slide, let's go ahead and flip over to that. If you look at 12 today, that will be the last version of 12. And then moving forward, after that 14 upgrade, you'll go 15, 16, 17, 18. So I'm a visual person. I like visual slides to try to describe these types of things. So if we take a look at this slide, what we're showing is the new SaaS/Agile release approach of Aras. So again, if you're on 12 today, then you will still need to log your ticket, upgrade to 14. After you're on 14, as you can see across the top line, the platform will always be released into these releases. So 15, 16, 17, 18. The hollow and the colored boxes are there to represent what the hollow boxes are recertification. So at each release, they're going to recertify platform components, recertify applications, the connector partners, as well as on the Razorleaf manufacturing suite part of the applications will be recertified for every release. And then there will also be new things that are released. So if we take a look at the platform components line or the applications line you see here, the hollow boxes that app is the same. It has not changed. It's just been simply recertified to make sure it works on the new release. The filled in boxes, so we see the solid, orange, teal, green boxes here. That's where there may be a new release. So a brand new application. Let's say that there's a new MES application that's released or a new MRO application released, right? So those would be major features, functionality that, again, in the 6-week window that we do the what's new, we'll review those applications, let you guys know what's available, and then work with you to develop a plan to go implement those things or to then roll those things out to your business. So I did talk to our partners. I know a lot of you are also 𝙀connector partners, so I got to talk to their team a little bit earlier today, actually, and the 𝙀connector, for example, is going to be released at 10 for 14. So if you're going to Aras Innovator 14, you guys are scheduling that upgrade, it's the 𝙀connector 10 that you'll be on. And then earlier next year, and the same thing with the manufacturing suite, whatever version of the manufacturing suite you have today, that will carry over into 14. And then what we will be doing is we will be forming a plan to align better with Aras's release structure so that we can release new features, functionality, if not at every release, some consistent cadence with their release structure. I think the only exception to this is the Razorleaf Clover brand of products. I know we have a number of Clover customers on the call. Those products are a little different. They're more independent from the platform. We're using those for integration of the business systems, ERP, PLM. Excuse me. So those are constantly monitored. And what we're really looking at is the Aras Innovator API or your ERP CRM APIs. So I would say that whereas new features and functionality for the applications and the connectors will come out with the release structure, I think Clover, whether it be collect it, integrate it, migrate it, will all be still continuing to develop with those APIs sort of along the path. If there are things that you incur, that nothing changes. You log your support tickets same way through Razorleaf support. We'll go through and we'll manage those products independently like we do today. So we take a look here. Solid is release, hollow is recertification. These releases will now replace service packs, so nothing in between. So if there's a bug, a fix that happens in this 5-week window between 14 and 15, that release 15 is what will solve that problem. So this, all the technology release, service pack, new feature will all happen at the major release. Right. So just to touch on Innovator 12 a little bit, so no new updates. SP18 will be the last service pack released for Innovator 12. 12 to 14 will require the same upgrade path as you've had in the past. So if, I know many of you recently in the last year just came up to 12, we're going to want to think about, think strategically when we want to go to 14, because we'll still have to log a ticket, we'll still have to work with the Aras database team to upgrade there. Once we are there to 14, now you're into that self-deploy. So now we can go through, we can work with you on a cadence of which you want to roll these releases out, whether that be, bleeding edge every, if they're every 5 weeks, say you want to roll it out every 7, but much more likely, 10 to 12 weeks at a time. There's a little bit of gray area about where the support path has been. As you guys know, it was always 2 releases with Innovator that you were within the support window for upgrades. I think we're going to be looking, these releases are going to be so, I think they'll be much more feature rich. So I think people are going to want to move a little bit quicker than what they have in the past, which I think is great for everybody. But we're probably looking at a 10 to 15 week window that you're going to want to go out and install the new release. And the new releases should be accumulative. So let's say you go 14, 15, 16, and you're ready to install everything at 17. You don't have to do 14, 15, 16, and 17. You can just roll out 17. It'll have everything that was in those past releases. Right. So I really, like I said, I really think this is a big announcement from Aras. This is a big move for our customers. It is definitely a shift, but I think it's really going to help the platform grow, get more community feedback into the platform and to Aras, and allow you guys to take advantage of a lot of features instead of having to kind of wait a year or 2 to get to some of those things. I know we have some customers that have been way behind feature-wise, just because the upgrade process today is not the quickest, and you miss out. So I'm pretty excited about this. I think it's going to take us a long way in moving forward with the platform. So with that, we'll take questions at the end. Definitely note all those. I know there'll be some questions about how to go about doing this, what the planning should look like for it. We've been talking about that internally here at Razorleaf as well, so I think we'll have some good answers for you. But before we do that, let's take a look at what the changes are for 14. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Milan. So Milan, I'm going to make you presenter.
All right, thanks, Rodney. So yeah, obviously the new upgrade path structure is significant news from Aras, but there is more reasoning on why this is a major release and not just continuing on the 12 service pack lifecycle. And that's because Aras is now moving all of its server components from the .NET Framework to the .NET Core. And this is a necessity because .NET Framework is soon going to be reaching its end of life, and Aras is making this change preemptively just to avoid any issues with lack of support from .NET itself. So this won't be too difficult. Aras is providing plenty of tools and guidelines and documentation for customers to prepare for the release of Innovator 14 and the transition. But due to this change, if you want to, say, deploy something on an Innovator 14 environment, it will not be compatible with previous versions of Innovator, say 11, 12, and so forth. Alongside this, we're going to have some telemetry enhancements. They're releasing a new API that's going to be based on standard .NET Core and open telemetry APIs, just to make things easier for integration, make things easier to work with, and more standard altogether. So there's more benefits to .NET Core outside of .NET Framework about to go away. .NET Core is cross-platform, which means it's allowing Aras to be ran on Linux containers, but not necessarily a Linux OS itself. But this allows for better scaling and lower cloud costs for you guys in the future. Once again, in the future, once Aras managed services and cloud services get up and going. This upgrade, like I mentioned earlier, will include migrating these customer methods to .NET Core. But Aras is providing a tool known as the Migration Analyzer, and this will run through your current method code and make sure it's compatible with .NET Core. It'll highlight things that need to be changed just to ensure that all the functionality that you have currently in 11 or 12 will also transition over to 14 without a hitch. Alongside with this, with the new major release of Aras, we have new UI enhancements, of course. Not as drastic as from 11 to 12. The UI is pretty close to Innovator 12. There's improvements to the login screen, a few color changes. They also have upgraded the forms to have new coloring, just to look a little bit more modern. Alongside this modern styling, the tree grid view command bars and context menus, they will be updated as well to follow standard styling. For those of you who have been running 12 and also moved from 11, you've probably noticed that that command bar kind of looks similar to that of 11 when the rest of those command bars look like 12. So now all of those will be following the same standard styling language. Alongside this, federated data types have been removed. Now they will be replaced by a Boolean attribute that you can just check in the item type property definition. And I'll demo that a little bit later. And alongside this, for those of you who do a lot of configuration, this will be a little exciting. There's a new table of contents editor that is kind of like a central location where you can modify the talk, adjust view access, and all of that, all within one central location outside of the scope of item type definitions. Just makes things a little easier for you. So just to run through a couple of the styling refreshes once more. Once again, the overall user experience is very similar to Innovator 12. Form styling has been modified to be a little bit more modern, as you can see on the bottom here. Required fields are now highlighted yellow just to make them a little more apparent for the user. And then alongside this, the new tree review command styling, just to keep things more consistent with the rest of Innovator. Also here, Aras is really trying to move towards federation services, trying to make Aras more easily integratable with other things. So now there's a new federated flag for text properties, as you can see right here. The Aras upgrade team is going to handle conversion of all your currently federated properties, and they'll transition them to text properties with the federated flag checked. Also in the future, this is pretty important for integration as well. Aras is looking to make every data type able to be federated, just to make things easier so there's no conversion between systems. Then finally, getting to the talk editor is once again a central location to update this table of contents, and it is completely removed from the item type definition. So every single thing that you need to do to manage this talk will be handled here. And along that, view access can be defined through this UI. You can also modify the talk for specific identities within your environment. And this is going to be driven by the configurable user interface data model. And Aras actually first introduced the inner workings of this into Innovator 12. And with Innovator 14, they decided to bring it to life. So with that, let's get to a feature demonstration. So here in this environment, the first thing I wanted to show is just a side-by-side of 12 on the left here and 14 on the right. So as you can see, the login screens have been slightly brought up to par with modern systems. Coloring, background's a little more vibrant. but no major changes to functionality here. So let's let that log in real quick. So we'll let 12 work, but if you're familiar with 12, there we go. You'll see that Aras modified just a tad. The coloring and stuff is, the coloring is a little different, but all of these same applications will still show up on your home screen here. Alongside this, they modified the coloring of your blue bar search here and changed a little bit of the icons, but overall, all the functionality is still the same. These drop downs still pull up the same information and look the same. Other thing to look at is the part form. So Aras made sure that they kept the same XY formatting for your part form so they would transition properly and you would still have all the same functionality where you need to find it. But as you can see, part number field is highlighted in yellow now just to show that it is required. And then one last thing on the part form is to show the tree grid view command bar. So you'll see in Innovator 12, it has similar design language to Innovator 11 here. That has been brought up to the same standard as all the other command bars in these tabs here. All the same functionality is present. Logos have been modified slightly, but everything is still the same functional wise. To move on next to the federated flag, just a quick rundown of how that will work in Innovator 14 versus 12. If I wanted to add a federated data type in Innovator 12, I could say example. You'd have to select it from this drop-down menu here to create that federated property. While in 14, it's as simple as creating a new property. In this case, federated properties are all text properties at the moment. You can scroll over to the right and just check this federated tab here, and you're good to go. And like I said, this at the moment, there's not much of a difference, but there's a lot more going on in the background here than what it looks like. This is kind of laying the groundwork in the future for Aras to make every data type possible to be federated in the future. Then moving on out of 12, can leave that. Let's move on to something I'm super excited about personally, as someone who works with configuration a decent amount, is the new table of contents editor. So when you open it up here, you're greeted by this pretty looking UI. And for an example here, I'd like to work with our change management tab. So initially, we have two types of ECOs in Aras out of the box. There's express ECOs and simple ECOs. But at first, simple ECOs are hidden to all employees. But if I wanted to change this, it's as simple as going to access here, selecting all employees, and saving. And if we check our talk, it updates immediately with our simple ECOs. Alongside this, you're able to create new folders, able to change labels, all within this one simple UI. So if I want to say I wanted to bundle my ECOs together, I can make a new folder here, name it ECOs, and then drag and drop them within that new folder. And just for the sake of keeping things easy to recognize, you can adjust these labels as well. Save that, and our new folder shows up on our talk. Alongside this, we could also add new item types to our table of contents. So in this case, we can look for an item type that we might want to add. So let's say aliases. We can select that. It'll show up in our talk, ideally not under change management. So we can move that within, oops, already added in there. But we can move that within our talk definition, and aliases is there. And then finally, one last thing, you can set what talk view you have right now. So say you don't want to have specific functionality available to someone in, sorry. for now, Aras PLM as an example, you'll see that the talk view for the Aras PLM identity is much different. You can look around and adjust those as you want. And as of now, that is all for the feature presentation. Thanks for listening to me blab about that. We can move back to the presentation. Rodney, presenter again.
For sure. So a couple little things, right? Sometimes it's simple requests that get answered that can have a pretty major impact. So if you think about the federated properties that Juan talked about, that's really opening the door. You had to have a lot of extra property management to take care and use the federated properties in today's environment. So with them changing that structure, now it should make those much easier to use and implement. And then the talk editor, I know in particular right now we have, give me one second. Juan, can you mute for me? There we go, perfect. So then, like I said, the simple things. So then the talk editor, we have a number of customers going live right now that have quite a few different departments that are using many different pieces of the platform. So as we all know, the platform continues to grow, not just by the standard applications that Aras releases. Sorry, Christmas season, many packages being delivered. But also by by custom applications. So the custom applications that we're building and making for our clients. So manufacturing suite is a perfect example. The new talk editor, the way to be able to folder and segregate those apps depending on who's going to use them will be a great end user feature. Should really simplify how we're rolling out what we're exposing to our clients. So some simple things today, nothing too crazy, no big new applications on 14, but I think some real enhancements that can help us and roll out. So I am going to show my screen here. And we will take questions. So Kristin, I think you were going to help moderate questions for us. Do we have anything in the queue?
Yes, we do. So thank you, Rodney and Milan, for sharing these exciting Aras updates, as well as demonstrating some of these new features. It's great information. So just a quick reminder for everyone, any questions you have, please enter them into the question panel. So let me go with our first question. What is Razorleaf's plan or recommendation for the rollout of the releases?
Yeah, so this is this news broke for us as a a reseller and a service provider. This news broke I don't know, a couple months ago that we were going to be in this new release structure. And I think we've been talking internally. We were already offering managed services to a lot of our clients. So we have a couple clients that are on a staff aug approach. So we have people, in our consulting base they're working with on a regular time, really to do implementation type things, develop new applications, develop code, troubleshoot. But this adds an infrastructure layer, right? So now we're going to be looking at more consistent feature rollout, going through and validating some of our own code. So let's say you're in the middle of a development cycle and a new customization, you're going to want to test that and maybe even test the performance of it across your user base. So I think we're looking to roll this into managed services. So we have a couple managed services clients right now in Aras, and then many across our Razorleaf customer base. I think what we anticipate is, we're still taking the temperature of this to see how customers are going to, want to roll these releases out. But I think what we're working on is a standard strategy to, as part of managed services, Razorleaf help with the rollout. So come up with, let's say, an annual strategy for how now we know Aras is always going to have a release every 5 weeks. So if our customers want to do that rollout every 15 weeks, that just becomes part of a service, part of a managed services strategy where they're going to then go roll out. Something else that's interesting in what we're talking about is many of you, again, existing customers, know that we've really had a push toward test automation, either with TAF or with our own partner Eggplant. over this last year. So we're also talking about how to roll that into that managed services strategy. How can we help our customers do load balance testing, performance testing, as well as dev package rollout testing in line with these Aras releases and rollout. So if that's something you're interested in, we're looking for, again, this is fairly new. We're kind of on the bleeding edge talking about this new release structure. But if this is what Aras is going to stick with, then it definitely creates an opportunity for us to work together in that managed services capacity to then go build an annual plan and help you manage that. Likewise, if that's not something interested you, I would definitely encourage you to take this as, we're all going into a new year now, and start to think about what this means for your business, how you're going to manage these releases, how you're going to educate your user base on new features and functionality that are coming out at a much more rapid pace. So that is how we are approaching it. We're talking to a couple clients now that have heard some of this from Aras already on what that strategy will look like. And I would say that by the end of Q1, we'll have a formal strategy that we'll be able to talk to all our clients about.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rodney. That's perfect. The next question we have here is, will Razorleaf be making any changes to the release of the manufacturing suite application or updates next year?
Yeah, again, a little bit of gray area, just because we did probably learn about the new release structure a little late to change our manufacturing suite roadmap and the things we have planned for 2022. But I think what we will try to do is with the new updates we have coming to, I believe, change management module and possibly a project management module, we will probably try to time those releases with the major Aras releases. So again, I talked to our CAT connector partner that we're all kind of in the same spot where we're playing catch up a little bit to figure out, how we want this to affect our product. But I think that is what we will probably do. So what you'll see is, manufacturing suite. So all the modules, change, trading, supply, they're all certified. They're all going to work on 14. They're forward compatible at this point. I think what we'll probably start to do is change our roadmap so that it's not just an arbitrary Razorleaf date, but it's aligned with the Aras release dates for the release as well. That'll just make it easier on everybody to know what's a new feature release and then what's a recertification release. So I would say, we're going to keep doing this every 6 weeks. I would say by the time we get to end of February, March, we might even have Tim Nose, our VP of product, come along and share some of that as well. So it's still early, but I would imagine that's where we're going to go with that.
Great, thanks, Rodney. No, it makes perfect sense to align with Aras on our manufacturing suite products. It looks like our last question, but it's very similar, I think, to what you talked about earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it anyways. With Aras new release cycle, is there a plan to offer managed services to your customers?
Yeah. So like I talked about, I think our plan is by the end of Q1 that will give us 3 months to see how Aras, how this holds up, how this works out. We'll have at least 3 of these releases at that point. I think we're going to take the temperature of our customer, which I'll talk about in just a moment. We're going to do some more customer-facing things in the next quarter. I think we'll take the temperature of what they are doing, what we see that they want to do around this, and we will shape our managed services offerings around that. So I would say definitely talk to us now if that's something you're interested in, because you'll be the customers that are helping us shape what that vision is. But by the end of Q1, I'd say we'll have a standard offering.
Okay, perfect. Yes, and I agree. The more feedback we get from our clients, it will help develop our roadmap, both for services and products. So thanks, Rodney. It looks like we do not have any further questions. So this concludes our Q&A session. And so I just want to thank everyone for your participation. And I'm going to turn it back over to Rodney for final comments.
Yeah, so I did have a couple things I wanted to hit on here in closing. Get that out of the way. So We're going to continue to do the Tech Tuesdays. Like I said, right now we're going to focus on what's new. If the future releases are light, we would like to cover other things that are interesting to our clients. So for example, we've got a number of clients right now that are about to dive into quality management. We continue to have a lot of customers interested in manufacturing process planning. So it felt like a big feature rollout over the course of last year. We've done a lot of work around that for a lot of different clients. It seems like people are really embracing that. So we could dive into some other topics past these initial sessions. So right now we've got Tech Tuesdays planned for January 18th and February 22nd. That'll be after the new Aras releases. And then, we want to fill these sessions with content that is valuable to you. So if the what's new isn't quite enough, we might dig into some other topics. With that being said, we are also going to do an Aras subscriber user group. So I know we have a number of our Razorleaf Aras subscribers on the line. So you guys should be getting a content survey. We've talked about this for some time. I know a number of you I was in the room with a couple of years ago. We still had 𝙈𝙊𝙍𝙍 and we talked about it. We're going to redo the survey. We're going to poll our clients, our native subscribers, to see what they're interested in. And then I think we're going to try to meet once a month for Q1 and see how it goes, and then maybe bi-monthly afterward. Again, just kind of piloting this, but the goal of this user group is really to get our customers, we've done a lot of references over the last year, got a lot of customers talking to one another to share ideas, and that has really helped folks get through go lives, researching new technology, seeing how other businesses are taking advantage of the platform. That's really what we want this user group to be. So less formal. We'll probably come and talk about product a little bit and talk about some things that we think are relevant, but we really want to get customers in a roundtable setting to be able to talk to one another, get connected. So you'll be seeing a survey for that. We're content digging right now, trying to figure out, what types of things you guys want to be talking about. But once we get that going, we'll start to set some dates for January, February, March. So I think early feedback from some of the customers we've talked to about this has been the development and packaging of, applications, how you roll things from dev test to go, to production. That's always a challenge for our customers. So I think we're going to take a look at doing some things around that. And then we have a number of implementations who are either going through kind of second round of major go lives or customers that are going live with, major capabilities here. So I think we're going to try to get them to share some stories, some lessons learned, things like that. So pretty excited about all of this, just getting in front of you folks more. I know we've got a number of customers on the line who have met Milan before. So with bringing Milan onto our biz dev team, we're really hoping to do a lot more customer success, stay engaged, work with you folks hand in hand to understand how you're using it and understand better how to help. So I will say on the product front as well, Clover Collected with its release. Last quarter or the quarter before, and a lot of work we've done with clients on that. We're super excited about that offering. We've had a lot of great feedback from the initial webinars we've done with direct clients. So we should have a collected webinar publicly in February, I think is the target. So we're excited to share about that. I know a lot of you have talked to us about it, heard about it, had those types of requests over the years. So again, if you're interested, we're still looking for folks that have feedback or helping us shape that product. Definitely reach out to myself or our VP of Product, Tim Knows, and we'll take those things into consideration and get some meetings scheduled. So with that, if there's no further questions, feedback, I think we're a wrap. So a little early, give everybody a little bit of time back, about 15 minutes, but definitely appreciate you all joining us this afternoon. We hope to see you in January.